group members. So kind of talk to your small group members. Oh no, Faith. Faith will get up and run over and talk to Taylor and Jordan. Okay. She's getting up to do a lot of errands for me today. Light switch, chatting with people. I appreciate it, Faith. And you're gonna talk to each other about this question. This relates to what you did on the yellow sheet, what you did on your homework for today. What do you use from equations to help you draw the graphs for sine and cosine? So talk about what you use, how you use them, and we're going to basically today be working backwards. So have that quick conversation with the people around you. Okay, that is quiet. Wow. Okay, Mitchell, tell me what you use to graph.
It's like A, B, C, and D.
Oh, A, B, C, and D. Excellent. Blake, can you be specific about any of those? Okay, great. Raven, can you add anything? Besides A is amplitude.
B is the starting point of Y.
Okay, the Y starting point. So Y would imply your vertical shifts or your up and your down. Taylor, anything else you guys could add to that? C over V is X coordinate for your starting point, right? And so we could call C over V has to do with the horizontal shifting, the right and the left. I will say, and I'll put that in parentheses there, C over V is probably the one that I would ever use if I'm using it to write the equation. I would probably use it last because I would want it to, well, you have two unknowns, right? You don't know C and you don't know V if you're working backwards. So if I were to use the C over V for the right-left shift, I would use it as my last resort after I had found either C or V. Okay, and I was confident in that. Okay, then I could go back and find the other one. So anything else we can add to that besides amplitude, up, downs, right, lefts?
Period.
What's that?
Period.
Oh yeah, the period. And so that kind of goes with what I was saying in regards to Taylor's right-left moment. If I was going to use that, I probably would do the work with the period first. So I would use the period to calculate my V, and then if I was going to go back and do anything with C over V, I would know what V was. So then it would be easy for me to calculate C. I have one unknown. So I would use it in that order. And anything else that has to do with graphing? Negatives. For which one?
From the
The A, right? A will tell you amplitude, but it will also tell you if there are reflections. Okay. So what you want to do today when you're writing equations is you want to focus on when you're looking at a picture of something that's already graphed, what can you take from the picture that will help you write the equation? Okay, so I'm going to put a picture on the screen. And you could take a minute or two to kind of copy down what you see. This number is covered by the graph, that's a 4 up there. what I want you to start thinking about is, what are the things on that graph that you can identify visually? So think about the things that we use to graph. We use amplitude, we use period, we use starting point. What can you identify visually? Maybe write those things down. And then by identifying that, does that help you find A, B, C, or D? And then can you put that into writing an equation? You can have some discussions in your small groups, okay? Bounce ideas off of each other, give some thoughts, and we'll come together and see if we can get an equation for this graph. Your goal is to write a y== equation. I will say this, there is not necessarily one correct equation. There are multiple equations to write. Have you talked in your small groups, shared your equations? Would you do that? You guys are so quiet today. Talk to each other. Share your equations, see if you agree. There's not necessarily one right one, but make sure you guys have correct equations.
It can be multiple equations.
Then you're sorry.
If you want to assign and it starts at pi on 2, you can do that. Then we would like it.
Okay, I'd like an equation. Trevor, what do you guys got?
y=4 cosine x.
Y=4 cosine x. Does anybody have an equation that is different from y = cosine x that we could put up there? Sorry, 4 cosine x. Any different ones? Oh, what have you got?
You could do y = -4 sin x.
-4 sine.
Sine, yeah, and x minus pi over 2.
Is it like parentheses x?
Yeah.
Minus pi over 2, like this?
Yeah.
Okay, any other ones? Out there? Okay, so let's kind of verify if these things actually work. For Trevor's groups, they said 4 cosine x, so we know the amplitude is 4. Okay, our period would be 2 pi, and our starting point would be 0, 0. Okay, so we're looking at the frame right here, starting at 0, 0. I've got an amplitude of 4. I agree with that. Okay, as I go out to the place where it starts to repeat itself, I do have a period of 2 pi. And so I would argue that probably works. Okay, so this one checks out. Is this what most groups have, y=4 cosine x? Yeah. Okay, and I would guess most of you would try to start at 0, 0, just because that makes things a little bit easier. But let's check Nick's equation. Okay, so he says -4 sine x minus pi over 2. So I know my amplitude is still 4. There's a reflection. Okay. My period is still 2 pi, and my starting point would be at pi over 2 comma 0. Remember, when you pull out the c value, it looks like the opposite. Okay. So then looking at Nick's frame, he's starting at pi over 2 comma 0. He says there's an amplitude of 4. I'm agreeing with that. A period of 2 pi, so we'd have to go to 5 pi over 2. Hello, thank you very much. So that seems to be working out for us. And when you plot the points, you want the sign with the negative a, right, because of the reflection? And those are the points that we've got. Okay. Can you also see how if you just took a frame somewhere else, you could get a negative cosine graph, you could get a positive sine graph, if you just changed where you frame it? Okay, excellent. All right, let's look at one more, and then I'll give you some time to work on your assignment. I'll make this bigger for you. Look at this one. Again, kind of take it apart, okay? And think about what you can take from the picture of the graph and put back into those things that we had used from the equations. And by all means, feel free to chat with the people around you. And we'll see if we can get a couple of equations for this one as well. Okay, April, can you give us one equation?
Y equals sine of parentheses 2x outside parentheses plus 1.
Okay, raise your hand if you wrote that equation. I would say that's probably the most common equation. Does anybody have a different equation that they could share? Blake? Pi. Like this? Okay. Anybody else? Jacob? Like this? Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to check the first one, okay, which I think is the most common one. So in this one, we're saying the amplitude is 1. We're saying the period here would be 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi. And we're saying the starting point would be at 0, 1. Okay, so in terms of what that would look like on the graph, my starting point is here at 0, 1. I have amplitudes of 1. I agree. That gets me to my max and my min. I have a period of pi, so I'm going from 0 all the way to pi. And that's right before the graph sort of copy and pastes, repeats itself over and over again. So I'm thinking this equation checks out. Again, I would say that's most people's equation because if you start at 0 for x, you don't have any horizontal shifts to worry about, right? So it's probably the easiest one to write. This one here, we've got an amplitude at 1, a period at 2 pi over 2, which is pi, and a starting point at pi comma 1. Because, did you say minus pi? So then when you pull it out, it would be positive? Well, let's check it out. At pi over 1, or sorry, pi comma 1, here's your starting point. Is this where you wanted to start? Oh, but it does work out.
That's the x value was
Oh, yeah, pi over 2, you're right. I was not paying attention. Pi over 2. Pi over 2. Okay, so if we start at pi over 2, here's our point 0, 1, or sorry, pi over 2, 1. And then we have an amplitude of 1. I agree with that. We got a period of pi, so we would end at 3 pi over 2. That's before it starts to repeat itself, which I agree. What shape is in here? the negative sign. So you should add a negative in the front. But otherwise, that one works out. Okay, I like it. And then this one here, we've got an amplitude of 1. We've got a period of 2 pi over b, or pi. And we've got a starting point of, what would that be? Pi over 4 divided by 2, so pi over 8. Comma 1. That needs a fix. What would you change it to? You change it to minus pi over 2, so you wanted to start at pi over 4. Okay, so pi over 4, comma 1. Here's your starting point for your frame. You have an amplitude of 1. I agree with that. To get a period of pi, you'd go all the way to 5 pi over 4, and the shape inside is a positive cosine. So that would work. Okay, so interesting things to think about. If you find your homework to be like super easy, I would do it once, easy, do it again, try to find a different equation. Maybe like if you've written a cosine equation, try to write a sine equation. Okay, so that's interesting. You don't know which one it is.